representatives and lawyers and so on and so forth within the local governments that in the municipalities where they lived. Also during this time, unfortunately, the KKK was formed, and they worked very hard to change this situation for people of African descent. Near the end of, excuse me, near the end of Reconstruction, an agreement was entered into between the South and the Northern federal government. This agreement made it so that federal troops had to leave the southern states. This is the era of segregation began at this point in time. I think you've all heard of segregation. Segregation was basically the idea that especially in the South, that people of color, African Americans, were not allowed the same opportunities, such as to have the same education in the same institutions, to use the same bathrooms, to eat in the same restaurants, and so on and so forth, as white people and where white people were. They were completely separated and segregated, even living spaces. During this time, and though African Americans still were able to gain representation in government, there was widespread voter suppression. Voter suppression took very many forms, but several of the forms included actual physical interference with African Americans. They also had such things as particular rules for voting, not voting for, but for gaining access to these positions where they were before. For example, they would have such a thing such as the poll tax, where they said, okay, well, if you pay a certain amount of money, you can vote. Well, people of African descent did not really have that kind of money at that time. Or they had what was called the Grandfather Act, whereas if your grandfather voted, you can also vote. Well, most African Americans at that time, their grandparents were slaves, and of course they did not vote. There were also at that time what was called the Jim Crow laws, which were even more severe and more limiting than the earlier Black codes. They included things such as Black people could not even look at another at a white person in a certain way, and so on and so forth. These Jim Crow laws continued all the way up until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were passed. So if you do your math, you know that these rules were in place in the southern states for a very long time, and it still and during that time it still disenfranchised African Americans from taking part in this voting in a free life in general in society. I'll start talking about Dr. King now. Dr. King was not born Martin Luther King. He was actually born Michael King. He was Michael King Jr. His father was also Michael King. He was born in January of 1929. Both Dr. King's maternal grandfather and his own father were ministers in the Baptist church. Talk a little bit about his father. His father was also, in his own way, a fighter for the rights of African Americans in the United States. During the trip to Europe and North America, where he was sent by his church, he ended up in Germany at a meeting of the Baptist World Alliance. And at that time he saw, this was in 1934, and at this time he saw the growth of Nazism. He realized that Nazism was something that was basically to him a disease. And therefore, when he returned to the United States, he felt that he needed to do more to help change the situation. He also at that time decided, Dr. King's father, to change his name from Michael to Martin Luther. Also, he started calling his son Martin Luther King Jr. The change, the actual real legal change, did not come until 1957, when Dr. King changed his name legally on his birth certificate. While Dr. King was growing up in the segregated South, he witnessed a lot of racial discrimination. He also saw how his father stood up to racial discrimination. Several times his father, excuse me, was accosted in front of his son in public, and his father refused to back down, refused to lay down. When Mr. King, Dr. King, was was very young, he had a very good white friend, and these two kids ran around and played together. Hello?
You have only 3 minutes.
That's all?
Very interesting, very expressive, and we would like to listen you more and more, but
okay.
Limit. Yes.
Okay, I apologize. Okay. Anyway, there's a lot more to tell about Dr. King, but what I'll finish off with is the fact that a lot of people say that Dr. King was not only a non-violent person, but he was a passive person. And that's not the truth. Dr. King was a passive person, but he was an impatient person. He was not a passive person. He was an impatient person. He was a non-violent person. He believed in change, and he wanted change for all people, but especially African Americans in the United States. And that legacy continues to this day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for very interesting report, very interesting information. And it is not only interesting, it is very significant. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Somebody want to ask something? Questions? It is possible.
Oh, yes, of course. Of course.
Yes, please. Maybe somebody want to ask something to add, to comment? No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Great. Thanks. It really was great, great text and very expressive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Dear colleagues, the next report will be not in English. So you can use the bottom under the screen. It is possible to have the translation into English. Точно так же для тех, кто не говорит по-английски, можно пользоваться той же кнопкой перевода, и тогда будет идти перевод обратный. Поэтому воспользуйтесь этой возможностью. The next report will be from Alexander Shokallo from Ukraine, cultural philosopher, member of the National Writers Union, and very interesting topic, the concept of culture in Grigory Skovoroda works, as a moral and ideological basis of mutual understanding, peace and harmony between people. It is very interesting topic because Grigory Skovoroda in Slavic culture is just the same as Francisco from Assisi in European culture.
Yes.
Oh, please, please. Александр Шакалов, your way. Пожалуйста, Александр Шакалов, вы можете начинать. Александр? Александр, where are you?
Щось не чути.
Александр,
Ви чуєте мене?
чуем. Вельми добре.
Чуєте, так?
Use the button for translation. Пожалуйста, мы вас слушаем. Давайте рассказывать.
Так, добре. Прізвище моє правильно Шокало.
Шокало. Sorry,
Так.
not Шакало, but Шокало. I'm sorry.
Так, Шокало. Наближається 300-ліття від народження Григорія Савовича Сковороди. 1722-1794 роки життя. Це великий мислитель-енциклопедист, філософ, мудрець, і педагог-просвітитель, і поет, і драматург, і композитор, співець. Так що це через 2 роки в нас буде таке загальносуспільна подія. Григорій Сковорода став першим вільним філософом-мудрецем у новітній українській культурі та й зрештою у всьому слов'янському світі. Як філософ-мудрець він звільнив українську філософію і світогляд від панівної тоді релігійної догматики і схоластики. До Сковороди вся філософія була релігійною і зводилась до трактування положень теології, яка панувала над людським пізнанням. А Сковорода став першим філософом за своєю суті філософії мудрості, яку він визначив так. Філософія або мудрість спрямовує все коло діянь своїх на те, щоб дати життя нашому духові, благородство серцю, ясність думкам. Здолавши догматизм і схоластику навчання в Києво-Могилянській академії, Григорій зберіг природну чистоту серця, ясність думання і почав запроваджувати ці принципи у педагогічній практиці. На власній культурософській основі. Культурософія Сковороди – це методологія самопізнання і досягнення мудрості, дієва філософія культури. За Сковородою культура, цитую, друге духовне народження людини, з духовного зародку в серці, через пізнання і здійснення нею заповітно священної в собі. Мудрець підтверджує це в книжиці про читання священного писання. Ось тобі друге народження і пряме створення. Дух духа творить. Григорій Сковорода, як композитор-мислитель, відчував у духовному народженні людини октаву світла. І отже, культура за Сковородою – це вияв світла людського духу. Звідси морально-світоглядне завдання культурософської освіти – дати життя нашому духові і підтримувати вільний культурний саморозвиток особистості та на природно-моральній основі. Освітня система Сковороди була вільна від догматики і авторитаризму. Він вчив учнів не догмам, а навчав учитися жити, готував до самостійного життя. І головне спрямування його освітньої системи – розвиток людиною своїх природних здібностей через самопізнання та самоздійснення в спорідненій праці. Споріднена праця самого Сковороди – це учительство, як цілісний вияв його моральності. Мудрець учив, як жив, і жив, як учив. Одначе освітнє нововведення Григорія Сковороди всуперечило етологічним канонам, і він змушений був залишити офіційну педагогічну діяльність у Переяславському і Харківському колегіумах, не бажаючи коритися консервативному догматичному режимові викладання. Григорій Сковорода покинув Харків у 1769 році і 25 років провадив мандрівну просвітницьку діяльність під таємним наглядом поліції і церковників. Покинув місце казенного вчителя молодежі, щоб бути відтепер виключно вчителем вибраних одиниць із сучасної української суспільності. Так підсумував подвижництво Григорія Сковороди Іван Франко. З тих вибраних одиниць невдовзі виріс у Слобідській Україні морально-світоглядний суспільний рух сковородинства. Основу того руху становили сковородині учні і послідовники, які зібрали великі кошти на будівництво першого в Лівобережній Україні світського вищого навчального закладу Харківського університету. Це було в 1805 році. На основі цього Слобідського освітнього осередку виросли дві освітові школи – Сковородинська філософсько-освітня і Потебнянська психолінгвістична. Григорій Сковорода сформулював основоположний моральний світоглядний принцип істинного життя трьома такими засадами. Перше, природа є першопочатково всьому причина і саморухома пружина. Друге, воля дужча за всяку неволю. І третє, культура. Друге, духовне народження людини. Оця тріада природи, волі, культури у своїй внутрішній неподільній цілісності являє суть морально-світоглядного феномену сковородинства. Це самопізнання, життєвої мудрості, дієвої філософії культури. Сковородинство як феноменальне моральне світоглядне явище українського світу неможливо цілісно осягнути ні з погляду релігійної догматики чи канонів релігієзнавства, ні з погляду філософських доктрин чи наукових теорій. Тобто неможливо виміряти його мирськими мірками, про що сказав сам мудрець. Мир ловив мене та не впіймав. Сковорода єдиний після Сократа і Піфагора європейський мудрець, який не просто вільно філософствував, а жив згідно зі своїм цілісним морально-світоглядним ученням у триєдності істинного думання, справедливого діяння і правдивого висловлення. Сковорода – філософ-мудрець античного і східного типу, що зближує його життєву мудрість з античною мудрістю, теосизмом, йогою, суфізмом, буддизмом. У Сковороди, як і у східних мудреців, провідним принципом життя – первинність серця. Саме первинністю духовна воля серця з його внутрішньою суддею, совістю і морально-світоглядним осердям сковородинства. Згідно з сковородоцентричною концепцією сковородиної філософії мудрості, мірою моральної зрілості людини є чисте серце. Цитую: «Голова в людині всьому серце людське. Воно то і є найточніша людина в людині, а все інше – околиця». Сковородина культурософія у своїй спрямованості на внутрішню людину з її волею, духу має багато спільного зі східними культурософськими традиціями і новітніми західноєвропейськими культурософськими школами, такими як філософія життя, екзистенціалізм, де головним у людині є її внутрішня духовна сутність. Згідно з культурософською концепцією великого пруського мислителя, родоначальника німецької класичної філософії Іммануїла Канта, найпотужнішим чинником культури є моральна воля, як універсальний життєвий принцип, як первинна сутність людського життя, що передує релігії. Народ сам себе просвітить, якщо надати йому моральну волю. А причину людського неповноліття Кант вбачає не в браку розуму, а в браку волі і мужності користуватися власним розумом, без керівництва з боку когось іншого. Сапере ауде – май волю користуватися власним розумом. Таким є девіз просвітництва. Важливість цієї культурософської думки Канта в тому, що філософ розглядає просвітництво не як засіб формування свідомості, чи тим більше маніпуляції свідомості, а як засіб її прояснення і цим самим визволення від чужого керівництва. Григорій Сковорода перший в українській загальноєвропейській філософії розкрив внутрішню екзистенційну сутність людини, здійснення нею життєвої програми своєї душі. А що таке людина? Хоч би що воно було, чи дія, чи діло, чи слово, все це марнота, якщо вона не отримало свого здійснення в самій людині. Однак цілковитого здійснення життєвої програми в культурному саморозвитку людина досягає тільки у взаємодії зі своїм народом. Цитую: «Кожен повинен пізнати свій народ і в народу пізнати себе». Цією філософією Сковорода дає нам ключ розуміння уладованої єдності частин у цілому, морально зрілих людей у збірній цілісності народу. Саме первинність і духовна воля серця з його внутрішньою суддею, совістю, морально-світоглядного серця сковородинства, що зближує через 2,5 століття українця Григорія Сковороду і турка Фетхулаха Гюлена, унікальних духовних подвижників, представників різних епох, національних культур і релігій. Передусім через таких духовних подвижників відкривається досягнення духовно-світоглядного досвіду народів, явлені в традиціях їхніх культур. Тож для уникнення міжрелігійних непорозумінь та для коригування філософських і теософських принципів ми застосовуємо культурософський методологічний підхід до осягнення феноменальних явищ різних культур і релігій. Адже культурософія – це методологія мудрості. А сутісна ознака культурософії, як життєвої мудрості, єдність істинного знання і вольового діяння. Ця ознака культурософії зближує Григорія Сковороду і Фетхулаха Гюлена, який явив освітовий культурософський принцип діалогу культури через фільтри національного духу, щоб забезпечувати рівновагу і чіткість функціонування світоглядних систем національних культур. Морально-світоглядні вчення Сковороди, Гюлена особливо своєчасні для подолання цих як замкнутості систем національних культур, так і антикультурних загроз фінансової цивілізації. Суть морально-світоглядних ініціатив Сковороди і Гюлена можна сформулювати так: аби звільнити свій розум від усіх перепон, що заважають духовному і соціальному розвиткові, люди зобов'язані дотримуватися світоглядної основи національної культури та вселюдського морального принципу. І спільним для всіх національних культур є всеєдиний принцип моральної зрілості людини в триєдності істинного думання, справедливого діяння і правдивого висловлення та прагнення людей до справедливості і щастя. Прагнення людей до справедливості і щастя – це морально-світоглядний орієнтир життєвої філософії Сковороди. Цитую: «Щастя наше всередині нас. Чисте серце є дух, дух віддання, дух благочестя, дух премудрості, дух поради». Сковорода розглядає щастя як стан душевного ладу, що досягається звільненням від зовнішнього гніту і подоланням бентежних пристрастей усередині людини, як стан самостійності волі. Мірилом людського щастя є радість життя. Щастя – мірило згоди між людьми і ознака збірної цілісності народу. Щасливий, хто з'єднав свою принципову справу з загальною. Це є істинне життя. В ідеї щастя Сковорода розкрив ясну мету духовного призначення людини і народу – жити в істині, в ладу і в мирі. В ідеї щастя Григорій Сковорода поєднав особисту мету життя людини і в її природно-духовному покликанні і колективне культурне здійснення збірної цілісності народу. Їх єдність становить суть національної ідеї, програми, життєвої програми народу. Сковорода, як мудрець українського духовного типу, започаткував не тільки нову епоху в українській культурі, а й нову епоху культурного розвитку в європейській історії, виявивши в житті конструктивні ідеї культурософії, як практичної філософії культури та екзистенції людини і народу. Особливість української екзистенційної концепції в тому, що в ній передбачається як власна воля людської особистості, так і цілісна воля збірної особи українського народу. Нині загальною необхідністю є розвиток сковородинської культурософії і відновлення в системі культури, систем національної педагогіки, зокрема сакральної педагогіки серця, глибинного українського педагога Памфіла Юркевича. Для сучасників Григорій Сковорода був мандрований академії, а Михайло Колинський назвав свого вчителя громадянином всесвіту. Справді, Сковорода всесвітній мудрець з українським серцем, бо отримав основу освіти з родинної сердечності в рідній батьківській материнській школі. Педагогіка Сковороди дуже подібна до маєвтики Сократа, тому що вони всі ґрунтуються на материнському почутті і на батьківському чиннику виховання дитини. І ось Сковорода так наголошує на двох цих родинних чеснотах батька. Два є головні обов'язки батька-матері – благо народити і благо навчити. Тобто батьку і матері належить народити і виховати дитину, підготувати їх до другого духовного народження у власній культурності.
Олександр Андрійович,
Да.
тільки залишилося 3 хвилинки.
Я завершую так. На цих культурософських морально-світоглядних засадах освітньої системи Сковороди базується всеукраїнське сковородинське навчання «Пізнай себе», яке започатковано 5 жовтня 2017 року, Всесвітній день вчителя. І віднині вони проводяться повсякчас по всій Україні і в українських освітніх закладах за кордоном. Освітні нововведення Григорія Сковороди, що їх тоді побивала теологічна догматика, цілковито відповідають нинішньому інноваційному освітньому принципу, активному персоналізованому навчанню на основі розвитку критичного мислення, креативності, допитливості, винахідливості, наполегливості та взаєморозуміння між людьми. За морально-світоглядної концепції культури Сковороди людина прагне щастя і душевного миру. Бо душа, як життєва програма людини, за своєю природою прагне миру і ладу з довколишнім світом, оскільки лише в єднанні з ним людина сповнюється щастям, мірилом повноти якого є радість. Аби досягти радості і щастя, людині необхідно пізнати себе, здійснити програму своєї душі спорідненої праці. В цей мудрий, знову нагадаю про Сковородину філософему «Мир ловив мене та не поймав», яку з його волі написали на надгробному камені. Саме цей вислів цитують спрощено в хибному перекладі «Світ ловив мене та не піймав». Світ у Сковороди не може ловити людину, бо людина, як мікрокосм, має світ невід'ємний, світ – це невід'ємна частина макрокосму, великого світу. Отже, в Сковороді йдеться про мир, про соціум, про непросвітлений соціум, який заважає реалізувати людині її духовну програму. Мудрець Сковорода лишився вільним. І от церковної мирської ієрархії не прийняв кар'єрних пропозицій і лишився вільним і вірним своїй духовній волі. Для вияву духовної волі людині необхідно морально визріти, народитися, вдруге духовно власній культурності. Тож за Григорієм Сковородою сам універсальна сутність культури, як другого духовного народження людини, становить морально-світоглядну основу взаєморозуміння миру і ладу між людьми, представниками різних національних культур. Дякую.
Вельми цікаво. Great, thanks. Maybe somebody wants to ask something? So I want to ask the next question, please. Tell me, is it possible to use the ideas of Skovoroda, if it's possible, of philosophy of heart made by Skovoroda, is it possible to use in the modern culture, modern ideological situation of Ukraine, or it is only for museum? Чи можна неяк уживати ідеї Сковороди у сучасному житті України, ті це тільки факт із історії філософії?
Ні, це жива. Я ж наголошував, що культурософія Сковороди – це жива реальність нинішнього життя. Проблема тільки в тому, що, як Сковорода наголошував, що суспільство – це мир, який його ловив. Суспільство перебуває в стані сну, і його дуже важко пробуджувати. Він говорить, що є сини віку, а є сини дня. Сини віку бачать далі, а сини дня тільки бачать те, що відбувається в нинішній день. Я проводжу паралель Сковороди із Конфуцієм. Конфуція тільки через 200 років збагнули китайці, що це за явище. І всі його ці потуги просвітницькі і дієві, які він запускав в систему управління, державного управління. Отак і ми до Сковороди доходимо, ледь тільки доходимо до 300-ліття його народження. Але от я сказав про сковородинські навчання, це з моєї ініціативи Міністерство освіти започаткувало у 2017 році, і вони дали дуже великий результат, тому що суспільство наче чекало, особливо молодь, люди, які прагнуть знати, вони наче чекали цього поштовху. І зараз дуже активно проходять по всій Україні постійно ці сковородинські навчання, що засвідчує про своєчасність сковородинських ідей, особливо його освітньої системи.
It is very good. It is very pleasant. Okay, maybe some more questions? No, okay, thank you. So we have the next topic from Farooq Karakan, if I'm not mistaken.
Karajan.
Karajan, okay.
Karajan.
Farooq Karajan, PhD candidate at the Department of Political Science at the University of Latvia. Very interesting topic, Fethullah Gülen and Gülen movement. Please, it is very actual, very interesting.
Yeah, hope my slide is visible right now.
Visible, very good, very clear.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
You can see.
Yeah, hello everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear.
Yeah, very good, very good, very good, very good. First of all, thank you very much to inviting me to be part of this great event today. As our moderator introduced me, my name is Faruk Karajan, and I am a researcher at Political Science Department in University of Latvia. While doing my research in academia, I'm trying to be active in a social life as well. Therefore, I am leading an NGO here in Latvia, which is called the Dialogue NAMS. On behalf of my organization, today I'm asked to talk about the Fethullah Gulen, his movement, and its contribution to global peace. I'm able to talk about Mr. Gulen because I have been observing Gulen himself and his widespread movement. So for people who don't know anything about Fethullah Gulen, I hope my speech today will accurately describe of his life, will accurately introduce you to the significance of his life and this global of movement that has emerged. Let's get started with the Fethullah Gulen. Fethullah Gulen is one of the most influential Turkish scholar and a thinker who has been living in self-exile in the United States since 1999. He is, as well as an educational and humanitarian activist, he has motivated millions to engage and invest in sustaining peace and improving community relations through non-denominational education and intercultural dialogue. He is respected by many as living model of devotion, piety, and altruism. As a testament of his humility, Gulen considers himself only a volunteer of the civil movement he has inspired and defines his role as an advisor or motivator at most. Nevertheless, he is regarded as the initiator and inspiration of the worldwide social movement known as Hizmet, which translates to service, and it's also known simply as the Gulen movement in general all around the world. Mr. Gulen's life and teachings exemplify values such as selfless service to one's community and humanity in general, sincerity, as well as a deep faith. But Mr. Gulen publicly denounced any attribution of leadership, and instead he spends most of his time writing, reading, and in worship. This is obvious that Mr. Gulen is known for his deep respect for all creation, for his empathetic attitude, and his call to relieve the suffering of humans in every corner of the world. The millions of volunteer participants in the Hizmet movement include students, academics, business owners, professionals, and public officials. The movement draws men and women, young and old, to contribute in multiple ways. Plenty of projects have been inspired by Mr. Gulen all around the world, including the tutoring, the centers, schools, as you have seen in the photos, colleges, universities, hospitals, publishing houses, and media outlets. In addition to that, Hizmet movements operates a major relief organization named Kimse Yok Mu, which is translated, is anybody there? And this relief organization helps poor people all around the world. And importantly, they are opening borehole for drinking water in all regions in Africa. The movement originated in Turkey, but now takes place in more than 160 countries around the world. So we may say that Fethullah Gulen is noted for his pro-democracy, pro-science, pro-dialogue, and anti-violence positions. Although recent studies have put forward Gulen's ideas on various topics, Gulen's approach to peace building is one of the less studied, as I have seen. Given the contemporary reality of wars and ethnic religious strife, this is a neglect that needs to be corrected, I think. Fethullah Gulen stands up for peace and for the prevention of any clash of civilizations, not only through his speeches and writings, but through his actions as well. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Gulen observed observes the world very carefully, and he personally identifies the disease and its treatment. Today, our world, the world has become a global village where people are more interconnected than ever. Technological progress continues in an amazing speed, and the emergence of human beings' awareness of their place in the universe increases human sharing in one another's happiness or sorrow. This consciousness is unique to our time, and it carries risk as well as benefits. No nation or ethnicity in the world can claim complete isolation, even the most primitive of societies. As a result of increased interaction and access to faster channels in communication, human beings have greater need than ever for the maturity of mind and the spirit to coexist peacefully. In contrast to the high speed of technological development, the building of the human relationship appears to be slower than ever. Where greater communication should foster real relationship between members of the human family, today's world instead faces conditions in which 2/3 of the world's population suffers from interpersonal violence and war. For this reason, Mr. Gulen personally encouraged the sympathizer of the Hizmet movement in order to cope with these obstacles on common ground with the different backgrounds. First and foremost, Mr. Gulen is a Muslim scholar, and his sources mostly come from his Islamic tradition. As he describes in his books, Islamic civilization is based on two essential principles: mutual cooperation and the loving interrelatedness of creation. In the first principle, the planet depends upon all creatures helping one another. For instance, rain helps grass to grow, and grass helps animal to grow, and animal helps human being to grow. In the second principle, all members of creation are considered brothers and sisters. This principle requires all human beings to reject anything that does damage to this essential relationship. Because of that, in Islam, where Mr. Gulen gets, it is as a source, all forms of racism and nationalism are strictly unacceptable. The Islamic view of human society is based on the principles of harmony and the peace. Wars and violent actions, while part of the history of every major world religions, have no place in the essence of Islam. The ideal society described in the all holy books is like a paradise. It is required of believers that they make this world as similar as possible to this ideal society. He shared his opinion together with the prominent religious leader, as you have seen here, by visiting them in person, and got the support from them about these ideas. Actually, it is hard to get support when you talk about establishing or building the peace in general, but Mr. Gulen's endeavors to light a candle in that darkness. Since God has no put limitation on the devastating capacity for human anger, building peace is one of the most difficult tasks for human beings. It requires steadfastness, resolve, and most importantly, patience. It is a long process and may take a generation in order to build a global peace, but all holy scriptures encourage peace builders in this struggle by reminding them of the eternal reward they will receive. Even if they are not fully successful, still they will be rewarded for their works, and therefore they should not lose hope in the work of peace. I think it is not an exaggeration to assert that the endeavors of Gulen have and will continue to have a global impact on building peace. Gulen's philosophy of peace and his efforts are not considered isolated instances in Islam. In fact, as I briefly said before, the entire heritage of Islam is considered to be a foundation of Gulen's understanding of peace. In other respects, contemporary scholars of peace buildings have elaborated on certain elements that are essential for making peace in any part of the world. Two of these elements are education and knowledge. There is no doubt that Gulen's greatest efforts and contributions are related to these two fields, education and knowledge. Mr. Gulen believes that there are three major enemies in societies. First, ignorance, second, poverty, and the last, internal division. If we take a closer look at our modern world, we can easily understand the importance of education, particularly for Muslims, who constitute 22% of the world population. Population growth is faster among Muslims than any other population, while literacy rates remain significantly low. Gülen considers lack of education to be a disease requiring a cure. He wants to cure the disease with education. The education, according to Gülen, will result in peace. Gülen established all his efforts mainly on education. It can be argued that he did not directly stop the armed conflict, but his efforts equipped young people with values that prevented them from engaging in such conflicts. Mr. Gülen believes that the new generation should be equipped with qualities such as wisdom, compassion, and knowledge. It is a movement most well known for opening a school around the world, which emphasizes independence, world peace, and interfaith dialogue. Once I read a book which called The Peace and the Dialogue in Plural Society, written by an American scholar, Thomas Michel, from Georgetown University, as you have seen in my slide. He came across Gülen-affiliated school in Indonesia and the Philippines, Zamboanga. He indicated that the region is not safe, but when he came across the Filipino-Turkish School of Tolerance, he was surprised to see such an organization in a place where tolerance is not common. This gentleman said that in this particular school, 50% of students are Muslim, 50% of the students are Christians, and teachers also from diversified backgrounds, and they study and work peacefully. I can count plenty of examples in different conflict zones like Philippines, and we can say in northern Iraq, but it takes time. But my previous slide, I just showed one university in northern Iraq. I think it's called Ishaq University. And this university is Gülen inspired. Gülen sympathizer has been established at university. The northern Iraq is one of the dangerous places in the world right now. Another important project that's established through schools all around the world, which is International Festival of Language and Culture. It was started in 2003, where it can be gathered different background students in a stage. This is the largest and the most prominent organization for promoting world language and cultures. It helps peace. And actually, it first began in Turkey with students from 17 countries, 1 and 8. In 2015, it reached 160 countries, and it took part in events across the world with more than 2,000 participants. 2,000 participants comes and then they perform something. This is very, very important. And as I have seen, mainly Mr. Gülen would like to hear a different voice. And apart from the endeavors to promote the education, he encouraged to organize annual discussions for social problems and their solutions. After that, the Journalists and Writers Foundation, where Gülen is an honorary president, initiated the Avant platform. And these are forums that have brought together leading intellectuals in Turkey and the world who hold different, even conflicting worldviews, and who would, until recently, never have imagined gathering together. And these platforms, Abad platforms, have in particularly been widely appreciated as an effective form for airing dilemmas that many people in Turkish society long to have openly discussed and resolved. Now it's going off all around the world distinctly. I personally got invitations, some of them, and I participated, like conferences, panels, seminars. And once I participated to one conference in the United Nations in Geneva. And also last year or 2 years before, the International Festival in Language and Culture has took place in the European Parliament. So under many big organizations, they had done several events. From this perspective, with this endeavors from Mr. Gülen, in May 2008, Mr. Gülen was listed as the most influential public intellectual in the world by the Foreign Policy magazine. In 2013, he was named one of the Times Magazine 100 most influential people in the world. For prizes, I would like to mention the last but not least, the Gülen Award to Peace was awarded all around the world. He received various peace prizes in different countries. And he's the recipient of Manhe Peace Prize in 2013 in Japan. And after that, Gandhi King Ikeda Award for Peace in 2015 in the United States. He is also the recipient of the New York-based East-West Institute's 2011 Peace Award. Peace Award from Philippines were ongoing, one of the most dangerous conflict between moral separators and the state right now. And he also took one Peace Prize from there. So to sum up, Mr. Gülen currently resides in Pennsylvania, in the United States, and he continues to write and give talks on various important subjects related to spirituality and humanitarian services and causes. And he is well known with his statement, a true Muslim cannot be terrorist, and a terrorist cannot be a true Muslim, published in the Washington Post after 9/11 attacks. With this saying, Gülen has got an enormous endorsement in Western countries that he obviously has a different voice than ordinary cliche from a Muslim world. So I just, conclude my slides, and I will just, I would like to show you the literature on the Hizmet movement and Mr. Gülen. Here, maybe you can see, it's very small, but you can see, I think. And there are plenty of, and Mr. Gülen personally has written around 50 books. And the rest here, as you have seen, different scholars has wrote about Gülen movement and Gülen himself. And also, if you would like to learn some information more, further reading, and you can just click any of these websites, and you can get more information about Gülen himself and the Gülen movement. Yeah, thank you very much. This is all.
Thank you. Thank you. Your speech was very located and completed in time. Thank you.
Very good, very good. I'm really happy.
Because your speech was not only interesting but illustrated too. It is very pleasant. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, visual effects,
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. What about questions?
I would like to have questions.
I have.
Please go on.
Something more. Yes.
And I think there's one gentleman.
Turansky, please. Mr. Turansky, please. Please, your question.
Маргарита, якою мовою я повинен розмовляти? Українською?
I think it will be.
Хочеться, ми маємо транслятора.
Будь ласка, да, спасибі вам велике. Надзвичайно, по-перше, спасибі організаторам такої конференції за таку цікаву тему. Це глибоко, з моєї точки зору, глибоко філософська проблема, філософська тема, боротьба за кращу людину, боротьба з добром і злом. На превеликий жаль, за 2020 років добро не перемогло зла. Кожного дня зустрічаємося із цим злом. Про Гюлена широкий загал, принаймні в Україні, дізнався тільки 4 роки тому назад, коли в Туреччині стався безрезультатний, скажімо так, чи спроба військового перевороту, чи безрезультатний переворот. Але я задаю запитання для доповідача, як так сталося, що із друзів Гюлен і Ердоан перетворилися на надзвичайно сильних ворогів. Причому ця ворожість, вона була продемонстрована саме з боку президента Ердоана. Були такі звинувачення і України про те, що в ній є інституції, які підтримують рух Гюлена. Але ми буквально вчора дізналися про те, що після 4 років, майже після 4 років цієї спроби перевороту, у Туреччині знову почалися гоніння на людей, в основному на військових, і вже нібито було 200 осіб було заарештовано. Чи не міг би доповідач пояснити, от Гюлен сьогодні, не його вчення, а Гюлен сьогодні, чому отака неприязнь, ворожість, злість на його адресу з боку президента Ердогана відчувається кожного дня? Дякую.
Very difficult question, really.
Actually, I'm a political scientist, and I can answer this question from my perspective. So it is related with politics. The question is a very good question, but it's related with the politics. As I have seen, Mr. Gulen at the beginning of the Erdogan's, when they established the party in Turkey, 2002, he asked Mr. Gulen's help for this. Why? In that time, Mr. Erdogan didn't have human, human power. So Gulen have a school in that time, and as a kind of community which have a power in the society. So after that coup attempt, we realized that President Erdogan abused this power when he asked the help for his new party. So he said to Mr. Gulen, as I have researched that, he said to Mr. Gulen that please support me, and I will support the values like pro-democracy and pro-press freedom and pro-freedom things. And then Mr. Gulen agreed with that. And after that, we realized that it's kind of tricky thing. And publicly, President Erdogan announced that democracy is a kind of train where you have to get off. You have to know where you have to get off. So this, if you look at democracy or freedom like this, you will be loose. After that, President Erdogan accuses Gulen movement as the enemy of the state, enemy of the party of AKP party right now who's ruling the country, and he said that they are not supporting me anymore, and they publicly did it. And Gulen sympathizers in the judiciary, in the police, and in the bureaucracy have found the corruption that President Erdogan has done it with his subordinates. And then he said that if you found my, secret things, then you can't publish it or you can't announce it. So if you do that, then we will be, enemy. So Mr. Gulen said that you shouldn't do that. And many messengers has been sent through, to Gulen, between Gulen and Erdogan, many messenger has come and go. So at the end, Mr. Gulen said that if you follow this, methods, corrupt and to cheat the people and cheat the democracy and cheat the election, then we can't follow you, we can't support you anymore. So this is the, the summary that Mr. Gulen and President Erdogan have been happened. So after that, there's a politics. Everybody knows that in politics, the benefits is play, key role. If you are not supporting my benefits, then you are nothing for me. So President Erdogan said that this is an enemy, and all sympathizers should be punished. And right now, intellectuals, professors, judges, and prosecutors who have fired from their position. Why? Because they have ideology. They have supported the ideology of Gulen. Because of that, this is a kind of crime, kind of purged that we have seen. So it shouldn't be done like this. If you have, if you are against this organization, I'm at the Gulen movement, you can tell it that. You can tell that I'm against it, but you can't, purge all people, all sympathizers of Gulen. So it's my opinion that this is a politics. It can, change easily. President Erdogan said that this organization has cheated me to the, Turkish people. And the Turkish people said, yes, you have been cheated, as we have seen.
And let me to express that you are not responsible for all conflicts in the...
No. But, as a political scientist, I would like to, just underline some topics, some very important parts, just few sentences. And this is a politics. It can be changed immediately. And the President Erdogan said that this organization, Mr. Gulen, has cheated me, and I cannot trust anymore to that organization. And so one day it happened, and maybe another day he said that, okay, maybe I made a mistake, and then they will be, I don't know, they will maybe give an excuse. But people have died in Turkey because of this, persecution. What President Erdogan has done against Gulen sympathizers. They are imprisoned, jailed, and they're very tortured even in the prison. And this is very unfortunate thing about my country. But today I am asked to talk about the peace. So I would like to have more time to talk about the politics, but it takes too much time.
Yes, well, thank you. All of us want to hope.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Kriansky, are you satisfied with the answer? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karajan. It was brilliant. Thank you. Now I am pleasant to give the possibility to speech of Muhammad Behzad Fatmi, political writer and commentator. Topic is faith-based humanism of Mahatma Gandhi and Fethullah Gulen. It is very interesting comparative analysis. It is interesting, please.
And we also seen a comparison from Ukraine, and there is a comparison as well, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Hello. I hope you can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes, we listen to you.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. It's at 10 o'clock in India right now, but I think it's early in Belarus and Ukraine and others. So my name is Behzad Fatmi. I am a political writer and commentator based in New Delhi. I am also a dialogue practitioner who works for an organization affiliated with the Hizmet movement, which is the movement that is inspired by Mr. Gulen. So today I'm asked to speak about people who have inspired the theme that is of this program, people who have inspired or who have contributed to world peace. And my topic for today's talk is the faith-based humanism of Mahatma Gandhi and Fethullah Gulen. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody, the organizers, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to talk about this very, very important topic. At a time where we are witnessing an unprecedented level of crisis. Some are, of course, man-made, but also a crisis that is we are facing right now is pretty much natural, the COVID-19 situation across the world, which is, of course, causing a lot of harm to people across the world. On this topic, as my topic itself suggests, that I would like to talk about faith-based humanism of these two personalities, Mr. Gandhi and Gulen. One thing that I want to specifically underline here is that both these leaders were deeply inspired by their own religions. Gandhi was a practicing Hindu and Gulen is a practicing Muslim. The point that I want to raise here, the importance of raising this point is, in today's world, in the 21st century, people understand that those who are working for world peace, those who are, respecting other communities, respecting other faiths, are perhaps non-practicing whatever, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or people of any other religion. But it is important, and also there is an understanding that religion hardly create or contribute to the positivity or constructive efforts in the society. Whereas these two leaders, Gandhi and Gulen, both of them have shown to the world that you can be deeply inspired by your own religion and do work for not only people of your community, but also for the whole humanity. At the time when Gandhi was alive, when he was leading India's freedom struggle, the world was had just come out of the two world wars. The first World War, which started in 1914 and ended in 1919, and the Second World War, which started in 1939 and concluded in 1945, and India got independence in 1947. So Gandhi was leading, he was in India, he was leading a struggle, a non-violent struggle against the occupying forces of this country and against, to be precise, the British. He was leading a struggle at a time when the world was ravaged with the conflicts, the violent conflicts that was going on. He was fighting a just war. Despite that, he did not resort to violence. This itself made him a global icon of nonviolence, and which means that he, by giving a message that you can fight for the goodness in the society, you can fight a just war for your country, by not resorting, even by not resorting to any sort of violence or the crimes that other people may do. So the important thing is Gandhi at a time was leading a non-violent struggle for a just cause when the world was fighting wars that were causing harm or that were leading in the death of so many people. The important thing that Gandhi always emphasized in his life was that end does not justify the mean. That is the exact thing that Mr. Gulen also talked about right now. That even if your intentions, the goal that you have are pure, doesn't mean that you can resort to any illegitimate or any illegal act in to attain those goals. So this is very, very important, that even when the fight, the struggle that Gandhi was leading was a just fight. It was for the self-determination of Indians. He ensured that he himself and his followers do not resort to any illegitimate thing which can justify the acts of the oppressors in the country. So in terms of what he did for world peace, one of the quotes of him is self-explanatory, I think. He once said that my nationalism cannot violate the rights of other nations. This he also showed with the actions that he took during his lifetime in his struggle against the British. I am hearing some noise here. I'm sorry, it's a bit disturbing. Someone's microphone is open. At that, even the quote itself that I'd like to repeat here is, "My nationalism cannot violate the rights of other nations." As we are all aware, when India got independence from the British, India got separated between two countries. Pakistan was created in 1947, and even at that time, and this division was done absolutely on religious lines, unfortunately, and that the nation was created for Muslims, and it was supposed that the other country would be only for people who are Hindus. But even at that time, Gandhi said that anyone who are now in Pakistan, if they return to India, they should be allowed to return. It shows that he did not mean any harm, or did not mean did not have any problem with the people who decided to move to Pakistan, and if they realize that they want to return to India, accommodated here, they're welcome here. And also during his struggle against the British, his struggle for India's independence, the first struggle, as is understood, as is claimed, was his struggle in a city called Champaran. It is in the eastern part of the country. It's known as, the struggle is known as Champaran Satyagrah. Satyagrah is the struggle for peace. That is the Hindi word for struggle for peace. So when Gandhi was in Champaran, it was a town where the British were forcing Indians to cultivate indigo, and were not allowing them to cultivate any other grain, wheat or rice or anything else, which was more profitable for the farmers, but it wasn't really necessary for the British. They wanted the farmers to cultivate indigo so they can export that to the UK and use it there. But even then, when he was leading that struggle in Champaran, he made sure that he did not resort to any kind of confrontationalist policy in the city, and he actually worked with the farmers, the persecuted people who were oppressed, and also he approached the British, the oppressors, to convince them that whatever they are doing is unsustainable, and for their own sake, for their own benefit, they should not be doing this. He would document the situation that the farmers were living in, and would go to the British and the authorities in Champaran, and would convince them that whatever you're doing is causing enormous harm to the people, to the innocent people in the city, and it would, in the long term, will cause you harm, and also it is unsustainable, and therefore it is important that you do away with your policies and get away with this. So very, very importantly, that even when you know that you are being persecuted badly, and are causing and you are totally right, you're innocent, and despite that you are being persecuted, there is a way to convince your oppressor that whatever they're doing is unsustainable and they should do away with it. This is what he showed with the work that he did in Champaran, and here I see a lot of resemblance with what Mr. Gulen is doing during the crisis that he and his movement is facing right now. Especially since 2016, when the so-called coup attempt happened in Turkey, a lot of people have been persecuted. They have been forced into exile. A lot of people have been jailed and tortured in jail. All these things have happened, barring people from traveling abroad. And God knows what, a lot of persecution, an unprecedented level of persecution is going on in Turkey. And despite that, what Gülen talks about is active patience, a term that is pretty unique and something that he has come out with. And he says that you have to show patience, but at the same time, you have to be active. Whatever you're doing, you should try and continue doing that with the limited resources that you might have. So it is important that you do not resort to any action that your oppressors are resorting to, but at the same time, you should not become dormant. You should not become inactive and stop doing the great work that you have been doing previously. So there are a lot of similarities between the two leaders, and there are more points that I can elaborate here. But keeping the time limit in mind, I would like to conclude here that, as I said in the beginning, it is important to understand that religions do not always lead to the negativity in the society, as is understood a lot of times in the 21st century. But there have been people in the past who have showed that they are inspired by their respective religions and can do work for the whole humanity, not only for their own community. So with this, I'd like to conclude my talk. Thank you very much for inviting me. And if there are any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe something could want to ask something.
I have a question.
Yes, please, Mr. Steele.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Your presentation was basically about faith-based advocacy in the area. But I want to go a little bit in a different direction, but not too far. Dr. King, when he was younger, he studied the nonviolent passive resistance ideology of Henry Thoreau. He also studied Mahatma Gandhi and his teachings of passive resistance. I want to ask very simply, how, if you know, how much Thoreau influenced the Mahatma in his struggle against the British occupation? That's my question.
Okay.
You mean how much influence did Martin Luther King had on Gandhi?
No. Martin Luther King was 19 years old when, even younger when Mahatma died. But how much did Thoreau influence Gandhi?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's my question.
Of course, if I understood your question correctly, is the role of passive struggle, is that what you're
passive
saying?
resistance, and especially from the philosopher Henry Thoreau, how much of his teachings influence Gandhi's work? Because both Thoreau and Gandhi influenced Martin Luther King Jr.
Sure. In my study of Gandhi, I have not come across his any reference to the work of Thoreau.
Okay.
In his, so maybe it can be further researched, but I have no idea about that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too. I have a question too, please. Sometimes when I read Fethullah Gülen, I think that his ideas based not only on Muslim philosophy, it is clear, of course, as a whole, but on Sufism too. It is corrected with Sufism. I'm right or not? How do you think? I think sometimes that it is the new kind of Sufism, modern Sufism.
Mhm. So, of course, Sufism is one type of interpretation, one interpretation of Islam itself. It is not something totally different from the mainstream Islam. So it is important to understand that Sufism and Islam are not different things. It is just one way of practicing the religion, living a life. There are other people who are non-Sufi, they too are Muslims, and they're also doing good work. So, of course, in Gandhi's work, he was inspired by Sufism. Yes, he talks about he in fact talks about Imam Hussein, who is a very revered figure in particularly in Shia Islam. He talks about the struggle that he led against oppression during his time. Gandhi, of course, had influence of Sufism in his life, but of course, he was also inspired by people who did not identify themselves as Sufis. So, for example, in India, Gandhi led a struggle for it was called Khilafat movement, which was for the Caliphate movement which was based in Turkey at that time, which was abolished in 1923 with the foundation of the Republic of Turkey. So when the Caliphate, the Turkish Caliphate was the Ottoman Caliphate, I mean, was collapsing, he in India led a movement in support of the Caliphate, saying that it was an umbrella body or such an organization, to say, a structure for the Muslims, and it is important that it continues. He had his own understanding of its benefits, and he did so. So he was inspired, influenced by Sufis too, but also by those people who did not necessarily identify themselves as Sufi.
Thank you. Thanks. Great. Thanks, Mr. Fatmi. So I want to ask about Alina Pekash. Are you present? Alina, hello.
Oh, due to technical problems, she was online but couldn't see and hear us. So that's why, unfortunately, the great presentation about our Pope John Paul II, we cannot listen to. But if you want, I can send presentation to you all.
Okay, all of us will be glad to get it. It is pity that she is not with us now. No, but we cannot change this occasion. Okay, so it is my turn, and I like to say some words about Francis Skarina. It is a cultural person of my country, of Belarus, and he was born in Polotsk. It is the center of old Belarusian culture and old Belarusian reading only. And Francis Skarina is really the person of wealth, the man of wealth, because the first education he has got in Polotsk, but then he moved through different countries and different cities. First of all, he got the education in philosophy in Krakow, in Poland, and get here the first degree, the degree of philosophy, the Bachelor of Philosophy. And then he moved in Italy, and then make the dissertation and get the scientific degree in medicine in University of Padua. And he is not only scientist, not only a thinker, but he is the first publisher in Belarus. He published the first Slavic variant of Bible, of Holy Bible. By the way, it was made in Prague. But Prague is the capital of our conference today, and it is very pleasant to say about it. And it was the published Bible in national language, and it was in the beginning of the 16th century. So we can say that it was one of the first publication of Holy Bible in national languages. In the Slavic, only the first. Then it is necessary to say that it was a very interesting situation in the life of Francisc Scarina, because he visited different countries and know different languages. But one time he was asked, "Who are you?" And it was very interesting answer. But first of all, I must to say that he was the great patriot, because he said that as any bird loves her nest, and any animal loves his forest, and any bee loves the meadow where she was born, just the same every person get the place of born in his heart, in his heart. And on the one hand, and on the another, his heart is on this place. And he said about this place as the little motherland or small motherland. Very warm words he said about this place. And these words, I said it, know every person in my country. Every Belarus knows these words about the places where he's born from the early childhood. And so we shall mention that he is patriot, and we shall take it in mind. And it is very important because he answered in very special way. When he was asked, "Who are you?" he said, "When I was in Krakow, I had come in Krakow from Belarus. It was the Grand Bachelor Lithuanian, and they said that I am Lithuanian. When I from Krakow moved to Italy, they said that I am Polak because I am from Poland. I am from Poland. When from Italy I moved to Prague, in this place, in this Bohemian kingdom, I was Italian. But everywhere I was only Francisc Scarina, only person, only honest man. It is seems to me that it is very important to be honest man in this context. He was asked about his nation, but he asked about that he is honest man. He means that it is most important. It is most important to have some moral values, some moral responsible. It is more markable for a person than his social rule, that his money, that his noble position, and so on and so on. It is first of all, to be honest man, and just the same, it is give the possibility to be the man, the person, the honest man in any country, in any town, in any city, be around it, any people from any country, from any nation, speak about different language and different things. It is not so important, and to have the moral foundation, the moral basis for his personality. Thank you, I finish. Thank you. It is not so long, but it is very important for our country, for our nation, because it is the national hero in our country, but hero not for battles, but hero for culture. Thank you. Thanks. So we can finish. Maybe it is time to ask each other, maybe somebody remember some question, maybe somebody is not satisfied and want to clear something. It is possible to ask everyone to everyone. Or we can say, no questions, no.
Actually, I can just make a conclusion about all we heard here.
Yes, please.
The value of or the worth of a person is quite difficult to measure when they are alive. When we can get quite judgmental, be prejudiced, or just be carried away in our own life saga that can cloud our sensibilities. Also, in most cases, we can't be bothered to stop and evaluate anyone, sometimes even for a lack of time. The whole scene shifts or changes when a person dies. So as a matter of fact, the value of or the worth of the person is quite difficult to measure when they are alive. So this is the conclusion that I have received today in this.
Great thanks. Great
discussion.
thanks. I want to express great thanks for organizing committee because it was very interesting to listen each other. It was very interesting to clear something and to know something new, of course. So great thanks for everyone.
Thank you
Great
everybody for listening us.
thanks for Mr. Steele. It was very interesting topic and very interesting presentation. Thanks for Alexander Shokalo. It was very interesting too, and it is very interesting to look about his position for Grigory Skovoroda. And great thanks, really hard thanks for Farooq Karajan for topic and for answer for very difficult question. And thanks, Mr. Mohammad Fatmi. Great thanks, very interesting comparative analysis. And it was very pleasant to get this discussion, and it was very pleasant to meet each other and to know each other now. Great thanks.
Thank you for your moderation.
Not at all, not at all.
Bye.
Maybe we can say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.